Okay. I got a piece of beef jerky stuck in my teeth. So we're live. And this is gonna be real. I promise this one's real short. And I spoke briefly on this topic before. But I was watching just a Roshonda Hayward with your little cute self. I'm back at it again. This is gonna be brief. Something just sparked my curiosity, right? I finished my live and I said, oh, Wujar was live. So I clicked on Wujar was live and he was explaining this book. And as Wujar was explaining this book, in the table of contents it said, Egyptians required slave labor. No. It said Egyptians heavily depended on slave labor. I'm like, interesting, right? Because when I heard that, oops, let me get my mic, I'm sorry. So when I seen that in the table of contents, I started looking shit up and ran across some shit, right? And let me just say this. Afrocentrics has been in this denial of ancient Egyptians practicing slavery, a form of slavery. And they've been in denial about that because they felt that they were ancient Egyptian descendants. So they were trying to run cover for what they thought was black folk and didn't want it to seem like black folk, the ancient Egyptians, who they think are black folk, they didn't want to soil their reputation and be involved in some kind of slavery or practicing slavery. So the Afrocentrics would always deny that ancient Egyptians practiced slavery. And no wonder when Shaka Amos, the exposed pedophile, some years ago, said ancient Egyptians practiced slavery, the entire conscious community, Garfield and Amin-Ra Squad and Brother Reggie and everybody was up in arms. Y'all remember this time period? I could play the video clips. People were up in arms defending ancient Egypt from slavery. Shaka wrong. Shaka's crazy. The Egyptians didn't practice slavery. Niggas was just trying to save face. Because at this time, the entire conscious community was preaching and teaching and acting like the ancient Egyptians was black people and that we were descendants of them. So they didn't want to attach themselves to practicing slavery. So they bashed Shaka Amos. Beat him up all over the place. And I'm sitting back watching because I didn't know much about the topic. Right? You remember that? I didn't know much about the topic. I left it alone. But in hindsight now, Shaka Amos was 100% correct, and the entire conscious community, Garfield, and the Amin-Ra Squad, and all these cats were wrong. Shaka was right. And you know I don't cap for a pedophile, but I tell the goddamn truth. He was right on that one, right? Let's just talk about it. And what made me look into this just now was Wujaro sharing a book that it seemed like he was highly recommended. Here's Wujaro's live stream. I'm sorry. Here's Wujaro's live stream that he's doing currently called Clearing the Smoke. You have options. And he posted this book up here. And I guess he's recommending the book. I didn't get the full context. And look.
Stephen Thompson. And we can see the table of contents. It's Ancient Egypt, Fact or Fiction. When was it written? Let's see. When is the copyright? 2020. So it was done in 2020. And it is dealing with Ancient Egypt, Fact or Fiction.
I just paused it. So I looked at this table of contents. And I guess he's about to go in, or maybe he did already. I'm not sure. Number 5 of this table of contents says ancient Egyptian society was heavily dependent on slave labor. I seen that, said, Number 8 he spoke on, it says the myth of Osiris, Isis, and Horus were the basis for the accounts of Jesus found in the Christian New Testament. That's in relation to the debate Garfield's about to have with Jabari. I'm guessing Wujaro agrees that some of Christianity was stolen from ancient Egyptian myths. And I guess this guy has that down here as his number 8 in the table of contents, that he's going to write about it. So we have 2 things here. Number 5 says ancient Egyptian society was heavily dependent on slave labor, which I'm about to piggyback off of. And I just wanted to mention number 8 gives a connection to Jesus found in the New Testament, and he relates it to the myth of Osiris, Isis, and Horus as being the basis for the account of Jesus found in the Christian New Testament. Okay, so
and we can see a couple of the different topics within the table of contents. So
okay, so let me move on from that and bring you back to me and stop screen sharing. Obviously, Wujaro likes that book and agrees with it. So Wujaro agrees that ancient Egyptians were practicing slavery. I'm sitting here like, why didn't these guys just be honest from Jump Street years ago when they were debating or trying to debate Shaka Amos and deny slavery being practiced in Egypt? Now, the consensus amongst Egyptologists is that they didn't use slave labor to build the pyramids. That's the consensus. I disagree with that, but I'm not going to argue that. Just a personal feeling, right? Say they didn't. They used slave labor for other shit. Fuck the pyramids then, okay? If that's a contention with people, fuck the pyramids. We'll talk about other shit. I'm wondering, why didn't Wujaro save this cat if he knows better? Because these cats are all a part of the go along, get along gang. They will hide information and they will put certain information out. If they feel some information goes against them or black folk and shit like that, and they'll manipulate and change it, and, you know. I am not that deep on Egyptology. I'm not at all. But if I was, I wouldn't have held back and acted like ancient Egyptian didn't practice slavery back then. I would have jumped on Shaka Amos' side and said Shaka's right, and we would have went in together. But I didn't know any better back then. I know that the same reason when I was in the airport coming from Ghana and I got to speaking about indigenous slavery in Ghana and how Ghanaians was enslaving each other prior to the white man and prior to the Arab. They had an attitude about this because they know they're West Africans and they didn't want West Africans to be seen as someone practicing slavery because that's them. Because they're in competition with white folk, like I always keep telling you. They only want white folk to seem, white folk and Arabs, they only want them two people to be seen as people who practice slavery. And that they can have some kind of moral high ground and say, oh, we didn't do this. Black folk didn't do this. Africans didn't do this. So to them, Africans are West Africans and Egyptians. Oh no, they didn't practice slavery. Oh no, we're going to push back on that. It's all to save face and compete with white folk and to act like they're better than or have some better morals than white folk. But no. As APEP said above, literally slavery was a global phenomenon in the ancient world. All peoples enslaved others, and all peoples got enslaved, damn near. It's okay to be honest in 2022. It was okay for me to bring out this truth when I came back from Ghana and I bought this book in Ghana. There was no need for African Americans to cop an attitude. But trying to save face, and black folk love avoiding responsibility. They love avoiding responsibility. It's always white folk fault. It's always the police fault, but it's never them asshole who's fucking up fault. So I know you guys would defend Africa against being looked at as practicing slavery. You did it with Egypt and you did it with West Africa, but I bulldozed you niggas over and made it sure you understood that West Africans was selling slaves to white boys and white boys was not going inland and snatching slaves. It was all business deals and up on the table. Both parties are guilty. You can't run and hide from it. Now, pay attention, Donnie. But what did you look up, Chief X? I said, God damn, it's all kind of information on slavery in ancient Egypt. So let me just share what I just was coming across. I mean, like, crazy. Shit like this. Facts and details, slavery in ancient Egypt. And these are different titles they have in this, I guess, journal. Slavery in ancient Egypt. What is not slavery in ancient Egypt? Slavery in ancient... Let me just blow this up so everyone can see. Matter of fact, let me turn my tablet on so I can see the comments as I go. Okay, so that's, I can see it. So let me just make it a little bigger. Okay, so the titles in this journal, slavery in ancient Egypt, what is not slavery in ancient Egypt, slavery in ancient Egypt, literary text, documentary evidence of slavery in ancient Egypt, slavery in the Old Kingdom, slavery in the Middle Kingdom, slavery in the New Kingdom, slavery in ancient Egypt and later periods, houses of female slaves and war prisoner slaves in ancient Egypt, slavery and servants in ancient Egypt, importance of slaves in ancient Egyptian households, renting slaves and laws protecting them in ancient Egypt, freedom for slaves in ancient Egypt. Oh, it just goes all down into it. Slavery in ancient Egypt, right? Shows abound a figure from Egypt of a Semitic slave. So they had Semitic slaves and they had Nubian slaves. Okay? And it just breaks it all down. The ancient Egyptians kept slaves. Many of them were captives of wars. There was even a house of female slaves that produced them. Ben Herring of University's something. Chattel slavery is attested in Egypt from the late 3rd millennium BC onwards. Persons can be bought and sold and inherited, and may thus be called slaves in the legal sense of the word. Although Egyptian terminology is vague, HM, fem, and BAK, fem, can both be translated as slave, but also as servant, right? They even give the linguistic words where you can correlate it and do your own goddamn research, right? Not only could these slaves themselves be sold, but also their services, right? And it just goes all. Then it has all the fucking links if you want to look into it. And guess what the fucking links is? Department of Near Eastern Languages and Cultures, UCLA. They're pretty much legit. Department of Near Eastern Languages and Cultures, UCLA. They got a whole motherfucking book and a journal on this shit. Abstract. The economy in ancient Egypt is a difficult area of study. They break it all down, right? UCLA goes all in. Here it go right here. UCLA Encyclopedia of Egyptology. They go all into this shit. A whole fucking book on it. The Egyptology department. Motherfucker. I mean, like, you can go on and on. Here goes all whole writing. Y'all can find this yourself. escholarship.org. Okay? On and on. UCLA Encyclopedia of Egyptology. They go all in on this topic of slavery in ancient Egypt. Shaka Amos was right. Garfield and the Amun-Ra squad was wrong. You guys were just protecting what you thought were African people because you didn't want them to seem to be like they were practicing slavery. They weren't Shu anyway. Now that you know they ain't Shu, Chief X had to let you know that the ancient Egyptians ain't Shu. Are you going to be so gung-ho about protecting every goddamn thing they did or didn't do now? You got over indigenous slavery, and now you admit that it went down because I had to force feed you guys the truth. So I just wanted to show you, it's a whole fucking journal full of it at UCLA Egyptology department. Shaka was right. You guys been lying. Who? The Sea People. The Sea People cause all kind of drama in Egypt. Here goes the Sea People. The Sea People were a confederacy of naval raiders who harried the coastal towns and cities of the Mediterranean region, but y'all act like ain't no Mediterranean region. They says Mediterranean region right here, right? And he just goes all into the Sea People and the trouble they caused and who were the Sea People. They're confused and don't know for sure, but shit was going on. Niggas was fighting and getting it on. You got a little thing on the Sea People and Ramses. Ramses the Great was one of the most effective rulers in the history of ancient Egypt. I mean, like, so I only say this to say that here you got Wujawu.
So this
Sharing books that tells you slavery, that Egypt was heavily dependent on slavery, slave labor. But he probably won't go into that because he's a go along, get along kind of guy, and he probably wants to hide that kind of shit. You know, but I pay attention and look and read and look at shit when people talking. And probably nobody else looked at all these 8 points. He was showing it to you, but you niggas hate to read. I mean... I mean, like, so let's get off of that. So I didn't come to do no long stream. And let me see if I can put this link in the chat in case somebody want to look at it themselves. Yeah, people say maybe the Greeks was the sea people. I don't know. You know what I mean? Facts in detail. Let me put that link in the chat. They say the sea people is fucking up all kind of shit in the Mediterranean world. Hold on. Well, let's just hold on real quick. Let me find something. Because black Americans and these conscious community people seem to be against this Mediterranean term because they know they're not Mediterranean. But let me just show you. Mediterranean people don't have no problem calling themselves Mediterranean people or culture or region. Okay. So right here they talking names of the tribes which names of the tribes which comprised the sea people have been given in Egyptian records as the Sherdun, the Sheklish, Luka, Tersha, and Akawasha. Outside Egypt, they also assaulted the regions of the Hittite Empire, the Levant, and other areas around the Mediterranean coast. These are Mediterranean people. The Hittites, the Levant area, the Minoan, the Philippines, the Etruscans. These are all Mediterranean peoples. I mean, God, Egyptians was Mediterranean people. They was running shit in the Mediterranean world. Okay, so assaulted these regions: Hittite Empire, the Levant, and other areas around what? The Mediterranean coast. Their origin and identity has been suggested and debated. Etruscan, Trojan to Italian, Philistine, Mycenaean, and even the Minoan. But as no accounts discovered thus far shed any more light on the question than what is presently known, any such claims must remain mere conjecture. So, they basically saying the sea people was banging on the Mediterranean world in different civilizations and nations around that region. So yes, they are all Mediterranean peoples. They look similar, they share similar genetics. You ain't them people, black Americans. Oh man. What y'all talking about in the chat? Oh man. When I came with that Mediterranean argument, people went berserk and got the bouncing around, going crazy, trying to defend it and act like Mediterranean ain't a real thing and act like there's not a Mediterranean region. They even start to make videos try to debunk it's not a real Mediterranean climate. Because the climate is not Mediterranean, then therefore that can't be Mediterranean. They're just going crazy, reaching and going all kind of shit. Ankh did that. He made a video and because he couldn't defeat the Mediterranean argument, this nigga got to trying to figure out about weather. If it's not a Mediterranean weather, or what does he say? What did he say? If it's not a Mediterranean climate, therefore it's not a Mediterranean civilization or culture. Well, a lot of people don't know California is a Mediterranean climate. So I was going to rebut him because he's getting what they call different climates out of context. They'll tell you California has a Mediterranean climate. Not the other states, but California do. So he took the Mediterranean climate argument way out of context. I gave him a pass on that because I knew he was scrambling and I felt bad for him. Oh, man. This person says, see, people destroyed ancient Mesopotamia. Yeah, they was fucking up. Whenever you hear people say they were raiding, just automatically you should equate that to they was taking slaves, because that's what was going on. When you're raiding, like African tribes always raided other neighboring African tribes. They didn't give a fuck about each other. So once you hear a motherfucker raided another tribe, that means they took on slaves. See, people was banging and raiding. So I just made this video basically to let y'all know, all you guys, Amun-Ra Squad, Dagger Squad, and the rest of you niggas who sided with these niggas over Shaka, y'all owe Shaka almost an apology. Yes, you do. You could, but I don't see why niggas didn't figure it out. Because you niggas is fake. Oh my God.